take your seat. Don't surprise us.
Waiting for. This is the behind the curtain panel. This panel has Steve Franks. He may come out. He was at the bottom of the ramp a second ago. Steve Franks. Hello, Chris Penzie. Andy Berman.
And this panel features the best writer ever to come out of the show Psych, Tim Meltrigger.
Perfect.
We are, this panel is starting late because we were at the autograph table just now for the last hour and whatever, however many minutes late we are. How many minutes late? Oh my God. Okay, so we're like 10, 11 minutes late just getting here.
We gotta shake it.
Oh yeah, no, we'll get all the questions in. But apparently, I was thinking no one was gonna come to the autograph table, so I was having long conversations with everybody. And Chris, right now, wants to strangle me. Because I made us so late to this, but
my job is to keep it moving, people.
But I'm happy to know all your cities, where you come from, and talk about local restaurants and donut shops from your city, because I think that is what we're all here for.
So if you're asking a question, maybe don't mention where you're from.
That's right. And anybody that's asked more than 16 questions over the weekend is no longer allowed to ask any more questions. Danny G, sit down.
You know what? I think we waived the 16 questions because fortune favors the bold. So we want to answer all your questions. This is going to be a really fun and loose panel. We know that 3 of us aren't actors. 3 of us aren't famous people who are on animated television shows. 3 of us haven't met John Candy. 3 of us aren't universally beloved around the world. But we're gonna try to be as cool as Andy is tonight.
I'm glad you didn't do like a height thing. 3 of us are over 5'8",
All right, so we start with questions? Or, if you have a question and you want to preface it with what city you're from and a donut shop that you like,
Don't do that. Do not do that.
let me know. Let's start, which way, which side? Tim, you pick the
Make sure
side.
it's not Spokane because Steve hates it.
Stage left. Hello.
Hi, my name is Thomas. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, and Mahalo's Donuts are the best. When you're writing a mystery, you want the audience to be able to follow along and guess the murderer, but how do you find that sweet spot between too much information and it's too easy, or too little and the audience is clueless?
Okay, that is
a good question.
Amazing question. And I'm gonna start and then I'll stop talking, Andy. Because I want you to dig in this. Here's the problem. If we're a show like Law and Order or a show on a network or any other show that has like a regular budget, then what you can do is you can have all kinds of like red herrings, like people that might be the killer. But at our budget, we had enough money to bring 3 guest stars. So one of them was going to be the love interest, one of them was going to be the killer, and one of them was going to be the fake killer. So it's a little easier to figure out our crime. So we were always sort of bumping against that. How do you give enough information without the person figuring out, right at the top when you meet them? I mean, here's a trick. If you're ever watching a show and there's a famous guest star, that's the killer.
Actually, I was going to say that's what Law and Order does. If Billy Zane is on Law and Order, you know he's the killer. If Billy Zane is on Psych, you know he's not going to be the killer because then he can't come back.
Yeah.
So,
I have another one too. So like you're gonna have a red herring, right? At some point you're gonna have like the fake killer. The fake killer is always the guy who says, listen, we weren't the best of friends or anything, but I didn't want him dead. Right there, look, we weren't pals, but like, are you saying I'm a suspect? That's the movie.
The real answer is that we would pull back a lot in editing, right? So you want to make sure you have a lot of clues, and then very often we would watch a cut and we'd be like, oh, you're gonna know right away, we have to take that out. So we'd cut around it until you get the right level of, okay, we sprinkled a little something in there, but we didn't really give it away, and then that's how you dial it back.
Thank you for that great question. Well, I was just going to tell there's a story, we can't name the actor, right?
Even though we had a hot mic right here.
Yeah. But there was a cut of an episode I did, and the character, we're watching the rough cut of the screening, and I tended to design this whole shot that I thought was really cool. And it's the introduction of this character, and you think they're going to be just an authority figure. And we're in the screening, everyone's being quiet listening, and the second we land on that character, Andy just yells, "He did it!"
It was instant. It wasn't the second he started talking. It was when he rounded the corner in his walk towards the office, which is, it's like, well, that guy killed. I mean, he's the killer.
So those are the challenges we come up against. Over here.
A big hello to the brilliant writers of Psych and Presenti. I'm Tian, and we wanted to pitch a Spike spin-off concept. I wanted to know your thoughts on it. And my wife, Lauren, will present the synopsis.
Oh, wow.
Hi. So Lassiter, Woody, Henry, and Buzz reluctantly buy a vacation home together after Woody begs them to help keep him in line during his house arrest. Little do they know, the neighborhood is rife with mystery, like the unsolved missing case of Mrs. Pickles II, a yellow tabby. Seizing the opportunity, they offer their investigative skills in exchange for a discounted HOE fee. What do you think?
I missed a little bit, but did you say Woody's on house arrest?
Yes, after his
That was it. That's definitely, for me, that would be the episode, Woody on house arrest. I'm in, no matter what the plot is.
It's a bottle episode, it's cheap, we know that.
Woody on house arrest, am I right? That would be something in the room that would be like, well, that's an episode.
That's an episode for certain.
You know, the funny thing is, first of all, I love the idea. It's lots of fun. What we had to cut from This Is Gus. There was the third one, right? Yes. That we only see them in the hallway of Woody going to trial. There was so much more in the original script, and it was so fun. But then the budget came in, and it's like, we're never going inside that courtroom. So we actually shared a little of what we were going to do with Woody in last night's table read. I hope you were here for that. But we love the idea that all the things that we did in Lassie Come Home actually had consequences in the story moving forward. So we love the idea of Woody being in legal trouble, and we want to keep going down that road because it's really fun.
Over here. Great question, thank you.
Hi, I'm Sophia, and if you guys had the chance to write a full-length crossover between Psych and another TV show, what would you guys choose and why? Aside from like the obvious like Monk and Cars 2.
Thank you for keeping him from going down that one road.
What do you think, Andy? What would you like to cross over with?
White Lotus. I just love to see Sean and Gus checking into the White Lotus and see where their story goes, and all the other ones seem to make sense and fit into the web, and then you're wondering, how are these guys going to? To me, that would be the crossover.
I like that a lot. I think it also would it would be a lot of fun to do a crossover with House Hunters International.
Yeah, or a variety show where they perform musical bits and sketches.
It's hard not to think that Scrubs would be kind of fun to have our two guys show up in that world.
That would be fun, and we welcome any kind of crossover with anybody. So bring them in.
That's right. Instead of you can do movie 5 can just be a crossover with whatever hit show is on at the time.
We're happy to tag on. As long as, the tricky part is, when you do a crossover with another show, it's like which show writes it, which has control of their characters, and I'm sure they write those characters in a certain voice, and then we might think our jokes are hilarious, and they're going, well, what is this? Our character doesn't sound like that. So that's where you run into the challenge of it, but the 4 of us, we're just fans of television. We're fans of other shows, so just to get to play and meet those people and hang out is the best part of it anyway. So at some point, we would love to make anything, and if it's a crossover, it'd be amazing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jet. I had an opportunity to ask this question for Steve like 10 years ago when I ran into him, and I didn't. So
wait, where did you run into me at?
Sliding doors.
It was in Orange County.
Okay.
It was a week after the series finale.
Okay.
And I was at an AMC ordering popcorn, and I turned around, and I'm a tall guy, so I rarely meet other people taller than me. And I saw a man's chest right in my face, and I looked up and it was you. And I waited for you to order your popcorn. I said thank you, and we were both going into the same showing of Winter Soldier.
Oh wow, nice. That was my next question.
I meant to ask you then, so it's been burning a hole in my brain for like 10 years every time I rewatch. So obviously there's a lot of recycled supporting and background actors in Psych, but this is about casting for producers and writers. So obviously there's a lot of producer and writer cameos within Psych, in like the Monarch Large episode or Zombies. But what is the decision, why is Carlos J. caught in so many episodes in prominent speaking roles? Or why was Andy Berman in the very iconic Autopsy Turvy episode as Singh, and that's my favorite bit, by the way. What was the decision in not hiring a day actor for those roles?
Well, as you know, Andy Berman is a world-famous actor.
It's just such a weird question that you would ask me. Of course, of course. Can we talk about Carlos J. though? Because Carlos J. yes, applause for Carlos J. Carlos J. is a world-class actor. I mean, and everybody in the writer's room was a fan of him as an actor, and so that we were lucky to have Carlos do anything on the show. I mean, he's somebody that would have been on the show anyway if he wasn't sitting in the writer's room. I mean, he wasn't in enough episodes.
Yeah, and Carlos, I knew Carlos first as an actor, and then also as a writer, and so we felt like, did he appear in 5 different roles on the show?
How many episodes was Carlos in? 6?
I don't know how many, but it's a distracting amount of many different characters. Yeah.
It was my favorite piece.
Wait a minute, he was an actor on the show before he was a writer.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
he did 9 Lives, my first episode.
And that was before we had him in the writer's room?
Wait, that was before we had him in the writer's room.
He came in around season 4.
He's
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Why did you have Andy do the role as Singh though?
Because no one else could have done it, that's why.
We tried to talk him out of that for so long.
It was one of those episodes where we wanted to, Jen Lynch was directing it, and we really just wanted to do everything that would be weird, which is a weird thing to say on Psych because everything was, how can we be even weirder and then sort of go down a rabbit hole of a strange world of things that may not even exist in, an old tiny diamond dance place that Corbin goes to. I mean, this was supposedly in Santa Barbara, and the performance artist, and everything was just turned on its ear in another twisted level of weirdness, and so it just kind of made sense that there would be that Thai soul food place that was mixing 2 cultures and weird food. So that's how it happened.
And then there was another one where we needed a really wound up type guy for a speed dating scene, and we had Andy to do it. We had Andy on here for that.
But also, Steve mentioned earlier the budget of the show, and so you're sending the writer up there anyway, and so you're either gonna, I was cheap.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Hello!
Hello. Hi, my name is Ashton, and this weekend there's been a lot of great talk about all the 80s references, but my question's about a different kind of classic, a certain video game reference in Last Night, Gus. I've played World of Warcraft since the legend began in 2005, so I've always wondered, who pitched naming the murderer Leroy Jenkins? Did anyone on the team actually play WoW, or did you guys just like the meme?
I think that James and they were the first person. We did Leroy Jenkins like a few times, right? Is that correct? And I think what they did, this is a great question, because they did it on set while we were already there, and they improv it. And here's me, I like to follow the rules all the time, and you have to clear the names in advance, and it takes weeks for legal to do all that stuff. So they just throw the name out, and I came back and I go, no, you have to give us the name, and we have to. So I panicked, called the legal department, and just to make sure that it was okay to use that name. So it came from those guys, but then it kept going. And it became a callback, and sometimes they're just things to entertain the guys, and so that's where all that came from. But it actually almost gave me heart palpitations in the first season. So that's a great question.
Thank you.
Hi, yeah, I was wondering about Chief Vic. So as everybody knows, the first 2 seasons, right, she's interim Chief Vic, and that's a very specific title. So I was curious, why not just make her the Chief of Police, or the new Chief of Police, or what was the rationale around that? And like, was it supposed to set up like a conflict with Lassiter? Was it like, just what was the thought process behind that?
I feel like I'm answering all these questions.
You're the only one who remembers. It's like we weren't sure Kirsten was going to work out, so we wanted to keep our options open. Just kidding. We love our Kirsten.
It's actually a really good thought, because what I thought was, like, I like the idea that they're, instead of just the police chief, there's this interim thing. And I also love this sort of backstory with Lassiter, that Lassiter loved the old police chief and was his mentor, but this guy was not a great guy. And she came in, so I was hoping there would be like this sort of tension between the two of them that sort of was underlying in what they did. And you give that to an actor, and they're like, oh, yeah, I got it. And then there's this whole thing of, well, we can have a moment now where she's made the full chief. And then that gave me the whole thing for the episode where she's actually going to quit, and they're going to hire somebody else. She's going to be overlooked, and Sean does the amazing thing to go back and expose that guy as a bad guy, and she knows that he was the one who did that for her, and it's only shown one time in a look, and that cemented that relationship for me for the entire series, because you never ask again, does Chief Vic know Sean is not psychic? Because she doesn't care. She only cares about the results. And so I thought that gave us like 3 different steps, and it was also fun to write interim Chief Vic, because you never see that on the script. You never see interim chief, you always see chief, or sergeant. So I thought it was fun and interesting, and it gave us a whole bunch of cool stuff. And then on top of that, we were also layering in, well, of course, if there's an interim chief, Lassiter assumes that's going to be his job. And so that gave Tim another thing to play, and in the end, we promote her to a bigger job. We promote Lassiter, and everybody gets their wish in the end, as they should. It's like,
Thanks.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for creating a show that I think, first of all, creating a universe, I should say, that means so much to everybody here. So first I want to say thank you. I've had the most amazing weekend so far, so thank you for that. I have one comment and one question. The comment is for Andy, and the other guy actually teed me up perfectly, so thank you, the guy on the other side. But Andy, giving Sing, the Sing character, that accent, it was just so brilliant, and you just tiptoed that line so perfectly. I was actually reeling from laughter when I saw that the first time, and I just wanted to say, like, so I don't have an accent, but I've been in the situation where someone assumed that I would have an accent. So to see that flipped completely upside down, I couldn't explain to you how much that made me like so joyous, but also like reel with laughter. I don't know. I just want to say thanks for that.
Thank you.
And then my question is, I was gonna say directed towards Steve, who, by the way, if there's ever a casting call for John Oliver's gigantic American brother, that should totally be. But the question is, and I know there's been variants of this question, so I tried to put a little bit of a spin on it, but there's been so many amazing guest stars on the show: Carrie Elwes, Phyllis Rashad, William Shatner, Juliette White, Alan Ruck, the list goes on. Were there improv moments with one of the guest stars that stood out to you, and you know, when you were editing, you're like, this is the take, the audience is just gonna die with comatose laughter, and then you got to the editing room and you know, legal or the network or somebody came in and said, actually we can't do it that way, and then we at the audience didn't get to see that version. Is there a story that you can tell that we didn't get to see?
Well, I would say this also is a question for Andy as well, because the Michael Weston run of names in the courtroom in both Cloudy with a Chance of Murder and Cloudy with a Chance of Improvement, they were throwing names, and many of them, the broadcast standards were like, when we edited together all the outtakes, they're like, you can't say that one, and you can't say that one, right? So we lost a few there. In terms of like on my episodes, like improvs, I don't think they were pretty hands off, and we're not like, I mean, I know we don't particularly, you know, within the frame of the story, we know what we can and can't use, so it seems like it's wasted time and effort to do something that's just going to be beeped out or any of that. So the only thing I can remember is the Michael Weston run. Did you have something that you?
Yes, it was specifically, the question was, were the ones that were improvised, but they could not be used later.
Yeah, something that we didn't get to see as the audience, but you thought, oh, this is going to kill it. You know, this would be a great scene.
I mean, on a more just humorous level, I think there was, you know, when James would go off on improv, sometimes it was to regulate the day in a way, you know, like to either lift up the crew or to, you know, surprise the guest star he was playing opposite of, or a regular cast. And so there's, on the cutting room floor, there's probably a tremendous amount of inappropriate improvs that were just done to shock or, you know, or create a reaction from somebody, that's for sure. My favorite thing was to watch guest stars come up and know that there was a script, but not totally know that it may go off the rails of the script, and just watching what happens to them in a take when that happens. And some of them just completely blended in, went with the punches, were able to do it, and some people were horrified.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Hello.
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 Oh, well, hello.
Member of the Henzy fan club over here, Jenna.
Hey Jenna, what's up?
Jenna.
So I have a statement and then a question. First, the statement for Psych 4 when it's eventually greenlit. I would like to suggest Jason Ritter be on it because he's friends with basically everyone in the cast and I love him and I just wanted to make that official. I told you here. My actual question is related to Psych 4. Right now, social media is really fractured with Twitter dying. Now there's Blue Sky and Threads and TikTok and Instagram. There's just everything, so it's kind of hard to get a group of us to all go on one and say, Peacock, listen to us, we want a Psych 4. Do you have suggestions on something else we can do? An email, a petition, some other way to get Peacock's attention to get this movie made?
I would say the social media push is probably your best bet, for sure. And you know what, I will apologize for not being on Twitter as much as I used to be with the Psych Rights thing. But you know, it's not like it used to be. But even still, like Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, all of those channels are probably like your best bet to push for the Psych 4 movie, again, because enough voices you will be heard.
Yeah, I mean, and email is funny because you can find anybody's email now, right? So emails, I think, are important because the executives don't all pay attention to social media. So I think social media is helpful, and social media is also really helpful in building, building a group effort that's bigger than just this room and bigger than everybody. That's an obvious supporter, but people go, oh yeah, you know what? They're right. They do. I'm going to jump on this bandwagon because you want it to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So, but also, don't ignore bugging those people through email
Do you have
because.
specific names?
Well, here's the thing at the Peacock and the studio. It changes about every 6 months.
It's just,
I wonder why.
It's honestly the nature of the business that there's constantly, you just read every day that this regime in this studio, Warner Brothers, Paramount, and all that stuff, there's constant turnover. But the fact that we can sustain a certain level of, even calling it noise, of interest and buzz about it for a certain amount of time, it's like, oh wow, maybe there is something to this. And there's a transitional, and this now it's I just use there's a transitional phase going on in the business. That's the last speak of that kind of verbiage that I'll do, but there's a transformative moment happening in streaming where they're not spending billions and billions of dollars on these giant things because they're not getting the return on the money. So by doing their belt tightening, they're also tightening the belts on things that are less expensive, like us, and we feel that once the dust settles, we're a pretty reasonably priced entity. We deliver kind of the same level of fan engagement and entertainment value, I like to think, each time out. And so we're like the bond market right now. So we're a safe bet, but we always feel like it'll come around to us, and while we wait for that, we do things like this. I spent so much time. I mean, if it was me writing that table read thing last night, I may have spent a lot of time on that because I thought this is important for all these people to give something big back, and that's the kind of thing that keeps this fandom going, and that's the kind of thing that I feel like we owe to you because look at you people, you're all out here in Philadelphia in the rain with us.
I'll just add that there's a little educational moment about how Hollywood works these days.
Are you going to talk about the bond market?
Yes.
Because 12 people just left when Steve brought that up.
With the streamers in particular, because of course when we started making this show, there was no such thing. But now with streamers like Peacock and Netflix and Amazon and all those places, they are really focused not on the number of people necessarily that watch a certain show. That's important to them once they launch a show. But in terms of people like us, they get really focused on new subscribers. And so in their head, I believe they feel like they've already got you guys. Like, well, we already got all the psych fans. We need new subscribers. So I think when you write your emails, it's like, hey, I'm not currently subscribed to Peacock, but I would love to subscribe, but I ain't subscribing until there's more psych. Or my mom, and we have this incredible thing where, because of you and your families and everybody's, ability to watch our show together, which we didn't really think about until you guys came to us and said, you know what, we all bonded over this, or, we watched this as a family or whatever. We had this incredible thing where, the young members of the family grew into the demographic that the network cared about. And so all of a sudden, we're getting new viewers that are actually growing into the demo. So it's important, I think, just to, if you're going to put something together and bug people about it, just say, hey, I matter now. I'm not a subscriber. I want to be. Anyway, so just an idea. But yeah, we have to bug them all the time and tell them why it makes sense. They do love us and they love the brand. But Hollywood's always focused on the next thing. They sometimes forget about the thing that got them there. And hey, we should keep that evergreen, which seems obvious to us.
Thank you for that question.
By the way, we have extended this panel because of how long I was talking about donut shops.
And the bond market.
And well, I'm going to do that. I'll do the bonds talk later.
Hello.
Hello, my name is Loretta. I'm here with my husband and our friend Sierra from Chicago.
Ooh, Chi-Town, let me see.
Hey, Sierra, do you want to talk about the donut vault right now, or should we?
You know what? I'm not a big donut person, so sorry to disappoint. But first I have a comment/answer for Steve. You asked me when I was in line getting autographs if we were close to H.H. Holmes' house.
Oh, yes.
We're about 30 minutes. So
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Follow-up answer.
Devil in the White City is an amazing book, and these are the conversations that made all of you late, and I'm sorry for that, but...
So yeah, if you ever come out, we're about 30 minutes away, so.
Okay, perfect.
Got that covered. And then my actual question is, who came up with Goochberg, and what inspired her, and why is there not more of her, and are we going to see more? Because she's just an incredible character, and I would just love to see more of her, how she came about.
Goochberg was James, that was James's name, that was Mercedes Rule. She's an Oscar winner, so we know when we get Oscar winners, we're going to get them once. And so we made as much of a meal of that, and it's one of the funniest runs of the show. And we had John Landis directing that episode, and when John Landis, this is one of my favorite John Landis stories, because we had added so much fun horror stuff into that episode, he delivered the cut, and the entire Goochberg story was not in it. And we said, well, what about that? And he goes, oh, yeah, I need to put the rest of the stuff in, so just use that in a different episode. It doesn't matter. And we're like, no, we can't do that. So at one point, it was not even in the entire episode, and he goes, you can do a whole thing out of that. But in terms of Goochberg, we knew it was a one and done to get somebody of her caliber to go to Vancouver. Because, I mean, it's hard. You have to have a passport, and you have to, I mean, obviously a lot of actors have passports, but it's hard to go through customs and be up there, and sometimes it's cold and rainy, and you're away from your family and all of that. And so that's what we try to, like, make it as fun as possible for them to come up, and the only thing we can do is goof around and make them feel welcome, make sure they look good on screen. So, we knew it was one and done with that one, but we were so happy to get it done. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My first comment is a quick comment for Hensi on behalf of Dule Hill. I think you were sitting right here yesterday. Yeah, you know exactly where I'm going with this with Allison Janney, about potentially having her on site as doing the Jackal. That'd be the best crossover because The West Wing is my safety story of go back and watch it when any comfort. But my question is for all of you as collaborators. We've talked a lot on a lot of the panels this weekend about collaborating together and having really good relationships and a lot of trust that's built up between all of you. But were there any specific moments that you can recall that one of you was like, we have to have this thing in here, and other people shut it down? What was that, if you have any of those, and then what was that discussion process like?
That sounds like a question for Andy, because Andy is often the one who gets his dreams crushed.
Well, I mean, in terms of collaboration, I'd say, and trust and all that stuff. I mean, I remember early on when Andy had written his first episode, I don't know if you realize this, but Andy's a little nervous about certain things. And he was a little nervous about how the episode was going to turn out. And we'd gotten the first cut, and we were going into editing, and I think I pulled a picture of Edward Scissorhands off the internet, and I put it on the editing room door.
Yes, he did do this.
Because I knew Andy was going to come to the editing room.
I was pacing back and forth outside the editing room, and there was a picture of Edward.
I thought it was funny. And the episode, of course, was great. 9 lives. Come on.
Thank you. Here's what's interesting about your question. When you say Andy got his dreams crushed, it's actually the complete opposite. I got my dreams completely made over and over and over again, especially by Steve and his willingness to indulge really great crazy ideas and stuff. So these stories that you would have about your dreamscape course are like one story out of 8 seasons of like, they become a story because you gotta make them a story. There's like only one time.
Well, in the moment you're worried about
that you're, about cutting episodes and all that, I think we all have that, but about ideas that you come forward with, episode idea or something. There's probably one in 8 years that you go, hey, I tried to get that over the hump and just couldn't. It becomes like an anecdote and a funny thing because Steve always say yes, I mean, we always do, he said that earlier in a panel, but it's about wish fulfillment, and he really did that for the show, but also did that for all the writers. Like it's never been done since that, and probably not before. The way that he thinks about that, the actual writer and what they want to do, and that's why we had pretty much the same writers for 8 seasons.
Because it was worth it, because the daily struggle is worth it, because every stage in the development of an episode is actually going to involve 100 little decisions that have to be made that you might want to fight for, or you gotta back down, you gotta choose your battles. It's kind of classic, but like when you're in the room with the writers, there are gonna be people who are gonna elevate your work, and sometimes something you want to fight for, someone like Andy will actually like elevate it, and you're like, oh, well maybe my joke wasn't so funny. And the whole thing, but that is it, it makes the whole struggle worth it.
Well, and the whole thing too, also the things that we had to cut were never about, it was never about ego. It's like we wanted to make Andy's story the best version of what he wanted to do. It was always about money and time. How much can we do? We would actually rob from other episodes. If we had a very expensive episode or something had a really good visual effect or a chase scene, we would knew the next time we would have to do something much cheaper. And so that was, I think it was such a collaborative effort. So in turn, Andy has turned this question about not getting what you want into a question about getting what you want. And Andy, that's an amazing positive spin on this.
Well, it's what Steve Frank's like, but it's very, very true. I mean,
the big bonus was that Andy would always get what he wanted eventually, because if you cut a joke that Andy loved, he would take it and he put it in his drawer, and then it would come back in the next script, or maybe 2 scripts down the road, or maybe on So Help Me Todd, or on High Potential. You'd be watching it and you'd be like, oh, he got his joke in.
You're turning on your TV, and in 911 you end up hearing, I've eaten pancakes twice in towns you've never even been to. It might sound familiar.
Great question, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, over here.
Hello. We've heard over the past couple days how much of an enjoyable experience it was working on this set. What do you think is the balance between having a fun set and also being effective in getting the coverage that you need?
Well, here's the thing, too. It's such a hard schedule because we want to write a mystery, we want to write a character, we want to write a romance, and we want to do bits and action. So we're trying to do all these things. And we had 7 days, and that's not a long time per episode. There are episodes of
6.5 days.
Yeah, 6.5 days.
Sometimes just 6.
Yeah, exactly. And so, episodes of some shows that are streaming that are 25, 30 days for that. So we would have a certain amount of hours in the day. And for us, because the guys are so high energy, it's about a 12-hour day that you can do before you go into overtime. We didn't have the money to go overtime. And I also think that once you're there 12 hours, nothing is fun anymore. So when you get to 13, 14-hour days, and there are shows in Vancouver that shoot all night long, and they shoot 14, 16-hour days. And so for us, it was like, we have to have organized screwing around. Because to stay light and fun, but we have to, you realize if you have something fun going, when Andy's directing or when I was directing, it was always like, okay, we need to preserve this moment, and then we would go huddle back and go, okay, how can we do the shortest version of this? How can we do this scene in one shot? Because we always had to balance it out and cut something else to make that. And so, but the great thing too is Chris and Tim would be on set too, and they're all on board for it. But Chris is always looking down the line. He goes, all right, this is cool, but I'm gonna go look at this, and you tell me how we do this. Or oftentimes Chris would go to the next scene, sometimes set up the next scene for us, and we just show up there and go with it. So it's just a balancing act all the time, but you gotta have fun, and that's the key.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, we realized early on, or at least I did, words on camera are the most important, you know, letting the guys have words on camera captured. Because if a line is never recorded, then it never has a chance of, you know, so rolling the cameras and giving them the space to do as much as they can. So I think what falls off a lot is production value and, you know, really super interesting shot or something that feels maybe a little more elegant, you know, kind of goes away. And it's like, how can we just put these guys in a frame and get the lines that we need and let them do as many more takes than we would normally do. Shows that are very procedural have it down so tight that they're going to do 1 to 2 takes. They've got the lines here. Our show lives and breathes by being able to have a little more space and being able to do those improvs and being able to find stuff. Well, something you gotta, you know, sacrifice something pretty major to get that in 6.5 days.
Yeah.
That's what we did all the time, I think.
Thank you, it's a great question. Over here.
I have a name, but that's not important. For those keeping notes, I'm Sophie's dad, and this is another chance to embarrass her. One of the great things about your show is all the theme episodes tracing back to the 80s. And since the San Francisco office is now in Chinatown, one of the obvious omissions was Big Trouble in Little China. What I'm wondering is, could you be talked into that? And if you wouldn't be interested in doing that, what other 80s movie would you be interested in doing a theme episode about?
Oh, well, you know, the funny thing is, you know, I loved the San Francisco office so much, and when we struck the set for the movie, we begged them to keep that set. But they're like, oh, we can't afford to put it in storage. I go, I think we're going to make more movies. And they go, yeah, we'll just have to create it from scratch again. And it already had become too expensive to do because I loved shooting that because it's just such a great area in San Francisco, and it's, you know, it's colorful and all the lights and everything. It's fantastic. I would love so much to get to do that again, but a lot of times now in the movies, it's like, well, we have to see something. We have a whole new setting for this particular movie or whatever we do. So building what we've already built once doesn't feel like something that's economically feasible for us. And especially while we're in the mode of doing movies, I don't think we want to do a movie that's just a takeoff of an entire other movie. So we get into series, we get a chance if we do a reboot or something like that, I think we get right back into, you know, doing tributes to things that we love. But for the movies, I think we want to make this like a giant soup of a bunch of things that we've always wanted to do.
Right. There's like themed scenes and bits, you know?
Yes, exactly.
We'd have to do Streets of San Francisco, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
If we did.
We would love to create the trolley chase from The Rock. That would be ideal for me. Or if we could figure out a way that Sean and Gus could rip off each other's faces and switch them, that would be the highest of high for me.
Well,
are you from San Francisco?
Well, I was born there, but I got away. but it's worth noting that the great James Hong is 96 years old now, so you need to move fast.
I actually worked on after Psycho, I did a season of Rush Hour on CBS, and the first thing we did was have James Hong on, and he is still as quick as he ever was at that age. He's an amazing actor, so thank you for that. All right. Let's get all these in.
Hi, sorry. My name is Creel, C-R-E-E-L. Permission to use it in a future episode.
Okay, got it.
Creel.
I'm from New York, and my question is directed towards Andy. I was wondering, because I grew up with you on The Wonder Years, that's where I remember you from initially. What was your personal journey from in front of the camera to behind the camera to do what you do today?
Well, you know, I probably was the last one. I didn't receive the memo that I was out of the acting business until I must have gotten lost in the mail. So, no, I started to feel like maybe, I'd gone to film school, but then my heart was in acting, and I really wanted to give that the best shot, and I did it for many, many years. And I think the worst thing was that I didn't completely fail, but I also wasn't getting where I wanted to get. So I was looking for other things, and at the time, the real answer is the people were doing short films and they were doing one-man shows. It was this sort of period where people were either doing one of those things, and thankfully I chose the short film over the one-man show. I'm sorry you missed my one-man show, but the best idea I had, I wasn't really right for it. It was behind a fictional peek behind the scenes of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory through the eyes of two Oompa Loompas. And there was no part for me as small as I am. There was no part, so I ended up getting Vern Troyer, Mini-Me, and another guy. I did a sort of a love letter to Willy Wonka, a short film. It did well, went to Sundance, and it sort of got me all these meetings, because there was a time when they were giving feature films to short film directors and music video directors. This is a weird time in Hollywood, and I took all these meetings to be a director, and the very last meeting I took was a TV meeting, and they said, do you have any ideas for a TV show? And I said, absolutely I have ideas for a TV show. I didn't actually. My head wasn't in writing television, but I saw sort of a door opening, and I came up with a bunch of ideas naively about TV shows, and I got walked into a place, and it was unique enough that I sold it as sort of like a flyer idea, that they took a chance on somebody, and I did it. Didn't get made, but it got me, the door open for me, and suddenly I just decided one door was closing and one door was opening, and I would walk through that door. But here's the interesting thing, is that I always wanted to be an actor. I never thought I could be juiced by anything other than acting and being in front of the camera, and it's not until actually I started writing on Psych, and I was writing things and saw James and Dulé saying my words and, doing what they do with them, that I was like, this is actually more incredible than what I had been doing as an actor. And I can look how I look, and I can be how I am, and I can tell whatever story I want. I'm not boxed into just my image of who I am, and the world just completely opened up to me. And then I just never looked back.
We have one more. Are we down to the last one? One more. Okay, here we go. Is there another? By the way, is there another panel that starts in 2 minutes? Is that how long we've gone? You're fine. Okay, good. All right, good. All right, let's do it. We can do this.
Psychologist Seren just recently did State Street, and they're reminding us how that was one we voted on, and we got that one and the truck episode. But there's a third one that I don't think know much about, and I don't know if you remember what that episode's gist was.
Wait, you voted on?
We got to vote on 3 episodes. The best I can remember, it might have been a telethon. That's what I kind of remember episode. And there's the truck, food truck, and the State Street.
So, okay. So wait, there were 3, there was a food truck episode.
Yeah, we get to vote. That was one of the things they were promoting. We were talking about that on the Psychologist Ren.
Okay.
That we didn't know which episode we were going to get in season 8. They gave us 3 options.
Oh, okay, I got you.
That's right. It says a food truck, a nightmare, what ended up in the nightmares with one, and a third one.
That wasn't made.
Wasn't made. And I don't know how big those were, but I'm just saying that, I think the best I can remember from back then was something maybe about a telethon. I don't know, but
do you want to know what that episode is?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I shouldn't do this because you want to preserve ideas that you have. So you never hear the rejected Marvel concepts. But since it's us, it doesn't matter. But this is we wanted to do a 3D episode. The In Plain Fright was an episode Tim and I wrote for 3D, and then somebody higher up found out you had to actually have glasses for 3D, and then that got shot down. But the thing we wanted to do, we wanted to attempt to do an all live episode. And it was going to be centered around a telethon, and it had a great concept, and I wanted Martin Short to be in it. And it would have been so much fun and such a high difficulty of effort that I don't think we would have successfully pulled it off at all.
That was ultimately what happened, actually, because yeah, we were gonna shoot in New York, right? Remember that?
Yeah, and that turned out to be way more expensive than we thought. But we wanted to do a live psych episode, because for us it's always about what's fun to do next. We've never done that, and regardless if we thought we could pull it off successfully, we wanted to take a shot at it. So that was the thing that died quickly. So the choice was actually pretty easy for them. They go, we can have these two at the regular price, or we can have this very, very expensive thing in New York. So that was that. That's a great question.
So now we just do our live episodes for you, right next door, as often as we can.
I did want to take 1 second to Viola and also mention this. Steve did work pretty hard on that script last night, and someone wanted
Yes,
to.
it was
And someone did want. I know time's up. But like someone did want Steve to answer a quick question about it. So Steve, could you give us like 15 seconds on that script?
15 seconds of
Yeah,
that
last night's thing.
Well, I think she wanted to know, like, if everybody was involved, if you wrote it in your own office and then sort of gave it to everybody to read, like, what was the evolution of last night's?
Well, it was something that we knew we wanted to do. I'd actually pitched that. By the way, the first time we did the con last year in Chicago, we got on the first call and they said, have a few ideas. And I pitched 20 ideas and none of them were feasible. So they were all...
I'll just give you a sampling of one of Steve's ideas. He's like, could we do, like, in one of the ancillary ballrooms, like, you know, could we make a cat cafe? People could go into, you know, like, and I was like, Steve, what are you talking about? Like, we can't have live cats in the hotel, and then we'd have to bring in a construction company to build set. What are you doing? He's like, no, we can do it. I was like, no. So we killed that.
So I think you aim high and then readjust your expectations for what you can do. But the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to do some sort of live read-through, and I didn't know it would be a table read, and I also didn't think it would be a story that actually connected Psych the Movie 3 to Psych the Movie 4 in a very tiny way. But it was just so much fun to write. And Chris was like, just get this script out. And I go, yeah, I'll have it in a couple days. Well, 3 weeks later, I'm still like working on it like feverishly. And I started texting Andy and James and Tim on our, like I said, okay, I need a Gustopia, or, you know, so it was great to have everybody, you know, sort of, we're working together.
I know that Steve sent it just casually on a text in a message on a phone, and I probably called you 9 minutes later just to say how incredible it was. Yeah.
We had a text chain of Gustopias that is like this long.
That's true.
Most of which we could never share with you, but they made us laugh.
Yeah.
And they may show up in next year's con if anybody's interested in coming. Thank you for coming. Thank you for putting up with all of us. I know we're not as important